we are going to remove some of the wiring inside this car. Now, I've already removed a little bit of it. I have removed the AC rad, and you pull it out of around here, like this, and you just pull it out and you set it on top for now. The next thing we have to do is we have to undo the bolts and the fenders and open them up basically like a gull wing. Now this is quite easy. Once you have the front end apart, you just take a couple 10mm bolts out of here, 1, 2, 3, and I believe there's one up in here as well. And then just grab the fender and pull it back. It's going to dent the fender, but don't worry about that. But and then we're going to do that to both sides. We're going to make sure the battery's out of the car, and while doing that, we can basically just remove all the wiring and move it to a place that's more suitable for the demolition derby. Because wiring that is ran through the outside of the fender is not very good, because if you get hit, it's got the chances and possibilities of getting caught. And honestly, I think I left a wire on that side of my last Camry, and I'm pretty sure that's why it caught fire. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to get a 10mm on an impact, and we're going to remove basically just the bolts here at the top of the fenders and pull them back like we're peeling open a banana. So now that the fenders are basically ripped wide open on this, like big wings basically, what we're going to do now is we're going to follow these wires back. Now just disconnect it from the car, which is just a quick little pull. See, right there is an airbag plug-in, and I'm pretty sure that on that side is what set off my fire in my last one. So what we're going to do is we're going to trace this back. We're going to disconnect it all from the bottom of this computer right here. So that's super simple. Toyota wiring is really not that bad, except when you can't figure it out, if that makes any sense. The reason why I say it's not that bad is because each plug realistically only fits into one hole. So just unclip them from the back of the harness. Just like that, you're able to get all the wiring out of the fender. Now, when you get your Toyota, look behind the strut tower on both sides, and there's actually holes. Now, these holes are designed to have sensors go through them. What we can do is you can shove all this wiring back up through that hole, and same as on that side. So let's get that done. I'm probably going to have to get the light and stick underneath here so I can see what I'm doing. Maybe my cell phone. But let's get this done. Don't need this. So now that you've pulled the wiring back through the fenders, passenger side's a little bit harder to pull the wiring back through the fenders, so all I do is I take the one sensor that I really want out of that fender and I bring it back inside, and I'll show you what that is. and then I zip tie all the wires tight underneath. So that way, if you get hit, there's a very little possibility of them getting pinched, because there is no quick disconnects to get the passenger side through. Would be nice if there was, but there isn't. Now, the passenger side is not as important as the driver's side. It's mostly just headlights and basically rad fans and all that, so it's not as important as the driver. The one sensor that you really have to worry about back here is this airbag sensor. If you get hit with this, it basically sets off the sensor to your airbag sensor, which turns off your computer. So you just rip this out of the module, bring it inside. We're just going to zip tie it up like that, basically right there. You just basically don't want this connected to the sensor. Now there's one in the passenger side and there's one in the driver's side. So make sure you have them both pulled back. So here's passenger and here's driver. So we have both of ours pulled out. They're yellow, they're easy to find. Now, the next thing we got to do is we got to take the harness from here and move it back to here. Now how we do that is we just basically move it. But there's some important grounds on a Camry. Now the grounds up here are very important. If you disconnect these grounds, Camrys don't get happy. So make sure your battery's out and you can easily disconnect them. Pretty much everything on the Toyota Camry is either 10 mil, 12 mil, 14, or 8. So just remember that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to basically move the ground to a different location. Now what this accomplishes is look at that drill go. What this basically accomplishes is it gets the harness away from the front 8 inches of the frame. Now these Toyota Camrys take a lot to bend up there, but everything that we do to make these cars last longer is worth it. Because if you're in the ring and you get taken out for something just so idiotically stupid, it sucks. There's nothing worse than being inside the ring and your car dying and then you getting out and the car automatically firing up. And do you want to know why I know that sucks? Is because it happens to me all the time. And there's nothing more frustrating than getting out of the derby ring and the car actually drives out, drives onto the trailer, and you're done for the day. That is one of the worst feelings of all. So now that you got those grounds moved, you can start moving all this wiring. Now, my wiring looks a little bit more exposed, and the reason that is because I had problems with this car running. But yours will be much more tied together and a lot less messy. So don't let this big mess intimidate you. I'm just going to move it out of the way. Take your time doing this, because if you rush this, you're going to skip over something that's pretty damn important, and then you're going to end up having a car that doesn't run, and then you're going to be pissed off, and then you're going to ask me, why doesn't my car run? The simple answer is probably something simple, because usually when something goes wrong on one of these cars, it's something simple, and there's nothing more upsetting than something simple making your car not run. I know. When I'm zip tying these wiring harnesses up, the main thing I try to do is I try to keep all the wires out of anywhere where they'll get damaged. Try not to get them sucked into any of the belts, try not to put them over top of the throttle linkages, try not to attach them to anything like vacuum lines. Just super simple ways of just trying to route it. And I always try to make it so the fuse box is facing up. Now the reason for that is once I spray foam these things, you really can't move any of the wiring. So by having the fuse panel facing up, if I blow a fuse, I'm able to check all the fuses. So I have the fuse box zip tied up. Now these are just temporary. If I need to move it again, I can move it again. But it's just getting it ready, getting it out of the way, and basically just making space for other things. But we're almost all the way up. Now we haven't touched the positive and negative cables yet because I'm going to do those separate because they're just basically straight to ground and put on my cable extension and run it inside. We now have all the wiring moved and zip tied up. Now I think it's ready to throw the battery back in. So let's just drop this heavy battery inside of here and hook these up. Now make sure you hook them up correctly because that's the last thing you need to do is blow your motor right after you, blow your ECM by hooking the positive up to the negative. Now I do have the hot wire to bypass most of the electrical inside this car, hook straight up the starter, and let's try this. I've done a little bit more tweaking to this motor. I changed a couple spark plug wires because I think one of them was kind of a little bit iffy. I still have the battery underneath the hood. I still have the computer hot wired. I've been playing with the electrical at the computer. But let's get this thing started and see how it runs since I've done a little bit more tuning and a little bit of more electrical moving to this. That runs a lot better now. Let's hear this. Now I do have both the thermostats unplugged. Let's get those plugged back in and see if she runs any better like that. Everybody says you can't run these motors without the thermostats, but I think I just found a way. She's ripping and roaring and ready to go. That's what I like to hear out of these things. So that's basically how you move all the electrical in the front. It's just take off the fenders, pull them out like a wing, slowly feed it back through. Just disconnect it from the panels, make sure your battery's disconnected, and then feed it up through that hole. And on that side, just make sure you take out the airbag sensor on that side, because once you do that, there's no sense of anything else going on the inside. I'm pretty happy with how this thing's going. So thanks for watching Zach's Workshop, guys. Make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button down below.